Hey guys, Ted from Nerdarchy here, for Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with these nerds.
Nerdarch Steve.
Nathan Nerdarch.
It's the end of your campaign. Was it an epic battle, or did your monster just get mashed? Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get RPG tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Derek Banta had sent us an email and wanted us to look over a monster he made basically for a level 20 solo encounter.
It was like his big bad for the campaign so they could retire those characters.
Various editions of Dungeons & Dragons, and more specifically 5th edition, have taught me anything. Solo monsters are never the way to go if you want to challenge your party. You need to throw in hazards and inconveniences and things that are going to take their focus off of your big bad. Otherwise, they're just going to gang rape him. Or her, as the case may be. That monster's going down.
My most successfully run encounter in 5th edition was the one with the Arachnomancers.
Yeah, and you actually had to use two different strategies.
I used multiple things, and I used waves. And I was like, all right, these guys should be able to handle this, but I don't know how much you're going to be able to take. If I took everything and just put it all out at once, it may or may not have been too powerful for you guys to handle. So I brought things in, new things in every round, and say, okay, well, let's watch what they're doing. How can I do this? How can I do that? And technically, I was prepared. Let's bring in more if I really needed to.
If you thought it was too easy.
Yeah, that works in several instances. If you have the big bads in a throne room or something, well, there's guards and things around him, or special monsters or something. Well, after you defeat them, there's probably an ability to have more guards come in. Or maybe there's a time sensitivity where some people are trying to break into different doors, and you either have the strategy of hitting the big bad, hitting the minions, or stopping more minions from coming in. So there's giving the players options. I like that. And in each case, there's only there's so many actions in a round they can take, which brings up a thing with big bads. They usually have legendary actions or layer actions or situational things. I would say make it so that it's situational things that they can use in a room that allow them to disrupt the players in some way.
So a good thing when designing an encounter, especially if you're dealing with something magical, and in this case, he was talking about a dragon, is you could have dragons have the ability to know that things are in their lair. So he could have some kind of ritual set up that lair action happens at initiative 20. Gate pours out minions, and it doesn't have to be draconic minions. They could be elementals. They could be demons. They could be whatever is going to fit the theme of what your monster is. And poof, you have insta minions every round to use. It's going to soak up attacks by your players so that they're not doing crap tons of damage to your big monster. And it's going to be able to, at best, do some extra damage to your players so that they feel threatened.
You can also just use terrain that is hazardous or just obstacles that they have to get around. Now, the higher level of the party, the less of an obstacle this is going to be. I mean, monks are literally running up walls. Wizards are teleporting. Sorcerers are, misty stepping. And even paladins could misty step at that point. So that part's a little bit more difficult. In my recent Spelljammer game, when it happened a couple months ago, I basically used a sleeping kraken as a ship, a Spelljammer ship. And instead of actually having siege weapons on it, they just used its tentacles, and the tentacles would act as a monster. It will act as a siege weapon. So the setup was there's all these space orcs on top of it, right? So my players are thinking, well, they got to beat the orcs, right? Their mind is on that. It's the ship. Well, one of the first things there's two things that happen. One, they get these giant rocks thrown at their ship, and when the rocks hit, they crack open, and flower snails come out of them. So now they have to deal with the flower snails. This is a really weak monster for a 17th level party. You guys decimate them and push them off your ship with no problem at all.
Except for the gold value.
Except for the gold value. But at the same time, you couldn't ignore them because they were a threat to your crew. They actually devastated the crew. So that was going on. But the other thing that happened is the Kraken ship opened its maw and shot out 2 smaller Krakens, which was another monster from the Tome of Beasts. Now, again, like, those monsters by themselves wouldn't have been that much of a threat. And in a way, I kind of used the wave tactic because I didn't bring the actual Kraken into the fight until later. Now you guys are dealing with snail flails on your ship. You want to kill the orcs that are on the Kraken ship, and you have these little Krakens that are wreaking havoc, and they are a threat. And so at this point, you guys have your attention, split in all these different directions. I wasn't even keeping track of the orcs. Every round, I just arbitrarily had them die. Pretty much, they were kind of just there. But it gave the players something else to think about. And then once the Kraken actually awakened itself, then they had to deal with that monster. Now, granted, I used a Kraken, 2 like CR9 type Krakens, and a bunch of CR3s, I think.
Yeah.
And like CR halves or whatever they were. CR, I'm not even worried about it.
CR, they're meaningless, so whatever.
Yes. So in that sense, but that battle lasted a while. One of the characters got nearly obliterated. They needed to use a Rod of Resurrection to bring them back. And I think a couple others got hurt. So, and there were some memorable moments in the fight as well. And that's what I'm after. I don't actually care how challenged my players are. I want memorable moments to happen. I've had plenty of times where my PCs come in and just blow through my monsters, and I'm like, what it happens. I did a dragon fight, and I thought it was going to be good. It wasn't. They pretty much wrecked my ancient white dragon or silver dragon or whatever I used, and they were only like 7th, 8th level. I've seen...
Was that the Clockwork one?
Yeah, yeah.
Or the Clockwork one's son or whatever it was?
Yeah, pretty much. I've seen a Solar used and get wrecked by characters that are way too low level to be fighting it. So it just comes down to solo monsters are just not good in the game. They're not going to usually lead to memorable moments unless that memory is the monster being obliterated. Because it comes down to...
Or a failed saving throw.
Well, yeah, or a failed saving throw. There's really just too much... left to chance. Although, fortunately, in this edition of the game, the really big bads have legendary resistance to put that off.
Yeah.
But my poor little demon did not.
Well, I was actually going back to the original Hydra one, the Hydra, but the demon wasn't bad either.
No, but so that kind of stuff happens, and if you want to avoid it, don't use solo monsters. They just don't do good. You're better off using weaker monsters or using a solo monster and have him monologue for a little bit and not attack every round. I would rather do that because I'm more concerned with how thematic the combat is than the game mechanic flow. Even my Kraken battle, like there were some rounds that I just forgot to attack with some of them, and it didn't matter because you guys were doing stuff. Some of the monsters were doing stuff.
There was a lot going on, and it wasn't necessary. Back in the day when we ran 2nd edition, the style of the game that we ran was different. It was definitely more a feel that, like, all right, the battle line is drawn. You're looking to challenge the players. Players are going to die. Now I think we've evolved as players, and we are honestly looking more to have fun. And challenge needs to be there, but not necessarily in every encounter. You want to make the encounters memorable. You want to make them fun so that everybody at the table is enjoying themselves.
Yeah, like if you poorly plan the encounter and your players romp it, instead of trying to fix it while you're playing, just give it to them. Let them have it. They'll have fun with it. Next time around, you can let them know you're not fucking around and drop a character or two. That's all. As long as you do it every once in a while, it'll be like, yeah, he probably will kill me. Or if you drop someone, kick them while they're down so they take a couple failed death saves. So this way they know you're serious. They won't be thinking. Listen, they won't think about that easy encounter other than it was like a cool story they get to tell. Like they're not gonna be like, oh, my DM sucks. He doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't even put out a challenging encounter. Especially if like the next counter, one of them goes down and you have them get stabbed while they're down and get 2 instant death saves. Then they're like, oh man, he will kill us. So it'll keep the gloating down a little bit. And then once they start gloating again, just stab them and they're down again. And go for the cleric.
Yeah, always go for the cleric. One of the stories that we had a while ago, Tim might know what I'm talking about. There was a white dragon, and it basically shaped its home. It didn't just live in a cave. It shaped its home like a giant cylinder of ice. And its treasure hoard and its eggs and everything like that was in another smaller cylinder in the interior of that cylinder. And there was basically a moat of freezing water down below, like freezing salt water down below, way below, like 100 feet or so. And there was nothing connecting the outer cylinder when you enter the layer to the inner cylinder. And
would you have to go under the water to get in?
No, there was the dragon's entrance, but it was. I mean, that would also be good. That would be a good one to go in. But there was different entrances. I don't recall the entrances, but you're basically not making it easy for a human biped to just walk into a place that they're not supposed to be. And it was to this creature's advantage because it was just climbing around on the ice. So initially when they come in and they start figuring out an idea, oh, we'll make a bridge or we'll cast a spell to go across. Well, then that's when the dragon who
shows up and messes things up.
Shows up and just basically breath weapons on them or does something or grabs a spellcaster and shoves them into the freezing water and tries to drown them or crushes them against the wall. And it can fly, and it can also, it's got the abilities to move around. That it's basically it created an environment for itself, not for people to easily hurt it.
And that's the other thing to make mention, that tactics are absolutely a necessity. That dragon encounter that you were mentioning, Dave, we had to figure out how to actually deal with it. We were stronger than it as a party versus it, but it had the ability to fly. We didn't. So, like, that was a part of the issue. And that's what I remember, that it was not... That we won, but it was not an easy fight.
Well, that's good. That's not what I remember. I was like, they murdered my poor dragon.
So, and, I actually felt the encounter with the belays pulling the cart was a much more challenging encounter because of the tactics that the belays were using, going through the walls and just running us over.
Yeah.
But in yours, that dragon could absolutely get behind a pillar and be able to use a breath weapon and wait until it's recharged to come back and do it again, while the player's like, well, how do I get to the thing? How do I do this? You have characters who, if they are nothing but melee, and you make it hard for that character to actually get to the adversary, what do you do?
Yeah, if that great sword wielder with savage attack and all that kind of nonsense, he doesn't even have anything besides a dagger to throw, he's not even going to reach it with extreme range. So it's just...
So you know what your party has the capability of doing and figure out a way around that.
Have the monster fight its fight, not your player's fight. Exactly. Like, even in the encounter Ted mentioned, one of the things the dragon did was it flew out of their sight range. Mm-hmm. Because it was dark, they could only see...
Out to 60 feet.
The only saving grace was there was one spell that one of the casters had cast that was kind of questionable as whether they need to target for that spell or not. And I let them have it. Right. And the dragon failed its saving throw and fell to where the players could get to it. And the fall did some damage. And I might have already used its legendary resistances, or I decided to let that one go through. Going, that one probably won't be too bad. But then it was. Then I think
out to be bad.
Yeah, I think it was. I think the goblins then got a hold of him and tore him apart. Yeah, they do a lot of damage.
There you go. You use waves, use tactics, use minions. Don't use a single solo monster. It's not going to go well. You can look at the gameplays on, our channel for Rhett Bruck's Monster Hunter games. They usually don't last all that long against a well-equipped party that's able to take it out.
The one I took part in was better, but that was because he basically made a Mega Voltron monster. So although it was one monster, it was actually composed of several monsters. Mm-hmm. So again, so how did he make a solo monster more challenging? He made it not a solo monster, because when he did do the Terras just got smashed to pieces.
Yeah, it was like a round and a half.
And that not solo monster thing, that's action. Action economy falls into that. And I'm thinking one solo monster that's kind of devastating is a beholder. That's because it just gets so many abilities to use on people. So it's kind of, it breaks the action economy rule a lot.
5th edition has helped a lot with that, but even still, like, all it takes is one bad saving throw. Or as a player fighting your solo monsters, you want to try and eat through those legendary resistances if they got them as quick as possible, so that you can actually shut them down. And that's kind of the thing. Beholders are tougher because they have a lot of stuff they can do, including anti-magic cone.
And it talks about, again, like we were talking about, creating that layer for it, not for the players to interact with. And Ted's showing us a lot in our game where we're hunting that dead beholder.
We'll see how that goes in a couple of weeks.
So far, it makes me feel like we're entering an alien place that's not for people.
Well, I hope I do it justice.
We shall see.
I got some stuff planned, and as we get closer, I'll have to make sure I get more going.
Yes, this will be a good case study in.
You guys let us know in the comments below. How do you use solo monsters? Have you given up on the solo monster concept? While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You also tweet at us over on Twitter.
You can also hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.